I'm going to talk a little bit today, or a lot today, about basically what's going on in the cosmetic product regulatory area, and specifically about some of the legislative initiatives that have been introduced by the Environmental Working Group, both federally and at the state level. How many people here, may I ask, have some financial interest in hair dye? Okay.
Personal or financial?
Financial. Personal, I think if I said personal, the numbers would increase dramatically. As a matter of fact, last year at this time, Congressman Schakowsky introduced the Safe Cosmetic Act, which was an act developed by the Environmental Working Group that really would completely rewrite the regulation of cosmetics in this country. One of the areas that we were all involved in, I think, in addition to hair dye, which basically, if this legislation went into effect, hair dye would have to be pre-cleared. All our dyes would have to be re-reviewed for safety. The exemption that we've enjoyed since 1938 would be taken off the books. And that would put all of our colors in possible jeopardy. So for this industry, it would be a very major and perhaps very negative, not perhaps, definitely very negative event. In addition to that, for those of us who don't make hair dyes, but make products that are distributed to either professionals or consumers, on your consumer products, the act, which was initially introduced and would require the labeling not just of ingredients, but contaminants down to the parts per billion level. So we did some sort of messing around, if you will, to try and create a label that would look like what would be required under the Schakowsky legislation if it came into being. I think it would be 2 or 3 pages, at least, and probably with contaminants which are found in drinking water, like lead and arsenic, up at the top of the list. The original Schakowsky bill, which was introduced just in advance of Cosmoprof last year, died in committee at the end of the term. However, in recognition of this year's Cosmoprof, Ms. Schakowsky again introduced the same bill. She made minor modifications in that if you're selling under, I think it is $1 million or $2 million, there's certain, you don't have to pay fees. Other than that, all the other rules on compliance apply. If anybody's interested, I can give you the multiple page analysis which we've done on this bill, so you can see how what I call the professional sales prevention team will make it impossible for you to continue to market products in the US. So we're all going to be looking to export if this comes into being. And again, I've gone through a highlight in my slides of some of the points. Now, the FDA in their program has also highlighted certain areas that they want to focus on more rigorously. One of which is expanding their technology, and they're going to continue to study nanoparticles. And sometime in my lifetime, the FDA may in fact have a position on nanoparticles, but don't hold your breath. But the focus of the FDA program is still in our industry primarily on safety. Unlike drugs, we don't have to prove efficacy. Our obligation is to prove safety. The other focus, of course, has been on the products that push the, what I call, drug cosmetic line. And that is, if your product is a cosmetic, you beautify, you improve appearance, you make people smell better, look better, and you make them cleaner. If you start addressing deep wrinkles, growing hair, and whether it's hair on your head or eyelashes, you're going to be a drug. And as creative as this industry has been, we're constantly pushing the envelope on trying to get new products that address consumer problems, especially aging problems. So there's quite a good bit of tension of trying to educate consumers on what you can say and a government set of laws and regulations that constrict what you can say. One of the areas that we as an industry, the industry group, is looking at trying to accomplish in our own legislation is to explore expanding the kinds of claims that we can make for cosmetic products into what is currently permitted for dietary supplements. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the dietary supplement regulations, but dietary supplements can make structure function claims. And I think it's time that we consider, given the developments in the industry, that cosmetics have some of the same opportunities. Again, the FDA's authority over cosmetics is basically based on the two provisions that were passed in 1938. One is that the products not be adulterated, and the other is that they not be misbranded. What does it mean? When is your product adulterated? When it contains a poisonous or deleterious substance which may render it injurious to users under the labeled conditions of use, or if it is packed or held under conditions of filth, or if the container is in some way going to decompose. As you all know, because you probably now are all experts on smoothing and keratin, one of the issues that has confronted the FDA is the myriad of complaints they have received on keratin treatments, including 4 congressmen who support the Safe Cosmetic Act writing to Commissioner Hamburg and asking her why she hasn't done anything about the keratin treatments. Now, in addition to backing up, in addition to adulteration, the other requirement for products imposed by the FDA law is that they not be misbranded. And that is that they not contain any false or misleading statements. Many years ago, I think it was back in the 70s, the issue became, if you put out a product, remember, as a marketer of cosmetic products, you don't have to prove efficacy, but you do have to have substantiation for safety. Most of the industry relies for basic research on your raw material suppliers who do basic safety on your raw materials. And as a marketer of a finished good, you basically want to ensure that the product that you're marketing, the complete formulation, is safe. The warning statement that was issued back as a regulation, the requirement for a warning statement that was issued back in the 1970s was to alert consumers to those products for which adequate safety was not obtained by the marketer. So that if you don't have the required safety, you're deemed to be misbranded if you don't warn. So what does that mean in the context of some of the products that have recently been the subject of much dialogue by the FDA? That's the keratin treatments, and it's some of the eyelash products that have recently gotten warning letters. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the eyelash growth prostaglandin products? Oh, it's a much bigger audience. Forget hair dyes. We should all do eyelash products.